Hey guys, welcome back, and it is mock draft time here on the channel. If you guys are new here, we've done a mock draft every week since week 1 of the season, and we've had a lot of fun getting to experiment with some new players, new ideas, and I'm really excited to get into this week's because there's a new team at number 1. The Raiders now hold the number 1 overall pick in this draft class, and I think there's going to be some new names that enter the first round conversation that we just haven't been able to talk about yet, so I'm really excited to get into this. But before we do, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Means a lot to me. Lets me know you guys are enjoying the videos. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon page. For $5 a month, you guys will get exclusive access to my in-depth draft guide with scouting reports and a full big board of over 500 prospects. It's all the best work I put together, and I highly recommend checking it out if you want to support the channel. And if you enjoy the prospect spotlights, you guys get the opportunity to vote for which players you guys want to see. We've got a poll up right now that's allowing you guys to vote on which prospect we are doing on Saturday. So be sure to vote on that for all members, paid or free, if you guys want to participate in that. But let's go ahead and get into this mock draft. The number 1 overall pick, the Vegas Raiders. They have the worst quarterback situation in the NFL. I don't think it's debatable. Which quarterback do you want to take? Do you want to take Shedeur Sanders? Do you want to take Cam Ward? I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Shedeur Sanders would be the pick for the Raiders if they have the position to take him. This is a Raiders team that has shown a lot of interest in the Sanders boys. We'll just put it that way. You had the clip going viral of Dion talking to Antonio Pierce, telling the Raiders they better draft the Sanders boys. You've got some of those conversations. Shedeur Sanders was in Vegas this weekend. There's a lot of buzz and a lot of smoke there. Also, we talked about it a lot, that the Tom Brady ownership in Vegas, that being Shedeur's mentor, I don't think that's nothing. And I think Shedeur Sanders is a great fit for the Raiders. He's a really accurate quarterback, really good in the pocket. He's got good pocket presence. He's got the ability to extend plays. He is the highest floor prospect here. If you want a safe quarterback prospect, Shedeur Sanders is your guy. I think that's what the Raiders are looking for, and they're going to take him at number 1. The Giants at number 2 are in a bit of an interesting one. I do think quarterback is the pick, but do we go a different route here than we've gone before? Cam Ward, excellent quarterback. The mobility, the ability to extend plays with his legs. I just don't think there's a lot of quarterbacks that can do that. He's got a really good arm. He's pretty accurate with the football. But I think the turnovers have become a bit of an issue for him. It's been talked about at length. The other prospect that I think could genuinely creep up into this conversation is Drew Aller. After the performance he had in the Big Ten championship game, he has jumped up to my QB3 from where I had him last week, and he's got a very legitimate chance to end up at QB2 because the footwork, while it's inconsistent, I think it's really positive. He has taken so much strides to be the quarterback that Penn State thought they were getting. And I'm going to take him here at number 2. I know that's going to be a crazy pick to a lot of people to pass on Cam Ward and go get Drew Aller. But I think Drew Aller's got a higher ceiling than Cam Ward. He's got a better arm. He's a really good athlete. And the accuracy in the first 15, 20 yards, he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in all of college football. I think Drew Aller's got a real legitimate chance to be a top 10 pick. At number 3, we got the Patriots. I think they run the card in if it's Travis Hunter. They are seriously lacking weapons on the offensive side of the football. Well, there you go. You just get one of the best receivers. I also think the number 2 corner is a spot that they could improve, and it's a spot that we've drafted for them in the past. I think either way you slice it, if you are the Patriots, this is a pick that you need to make. If you want to play him at receiver, you can play him there. If you want to play him at corner, you can play him there. Patriots have needs everywhere, but I think this is the best way to address your needs here. We are going to take Travis Hunter at number 3. At number 4 for the Carolina Panthers, we are going to take a pass rusher here. Abdul Carter is a pick that we've made for Carolina a bunch of times at this point. I think it makes so much sense. He gives them some serious explosiveness, speed, and juice off the edge. While I'm a big James Pierce guy, I've said week in and week out, Abdul Carter continues to narrow that gap between him and Pierce. He's been really, really good this year. And the last few weeks, he's been incredible. The different ways you can utilize him, if you want to play him at linebacker, play him in line, stand-up rusher, He is going to produce. He's a big-time player, and I think he's going to be a really good piece at the next level. I got him going at number 4 to the Panthers. At number 5 for the Jags, bunch of different ways you could go here. Offensive line, I don't think it's as big of a need. They extended Walker Little. I think they're going to keep their pieces there. I would have liked an interior guy. I know Will Campbell's probably going to be mocked here quite a bit. Don't love that. We've gone Travis Hunter for this team the last few weeks. If you want to go receiver, I don't hate Tetairoa McMillan for them. I really don't. I also don't hate Will Johnson to them. I think both of those picks make a lot of sense, but I'm going to address the interior of this defensive line and go Mason Graham. Mason Graham, you could argue, is the best overall prospect in this draft class. The size, speed, athleticism, all the full package there from the interior. And this is a Jags team that spent a lot in the offseason to address the interior of their defensive line. They drafted Mason Smith. They went out and got Eric Armstead. It really hasn't paid much for them. They haven't really gotten much production from any of those guys. And Mason Smith, in my opinion, was one of the most overdrafted prospects in this draft class. Mason Graham, I think, is a really, really good player. He's going to come in and be a top 10, 15 interior defensive lineman right out the gate. I think he's that level of a prospect. And I think he makes a ton of sense for a Jags team that needs to continue to improve on the D-line. I love this fit for them. I'm going to take him at number 5. At number 6 for the Titans, I've gone offensive line for them quite a bit. And I do think offensive line is a massive concern. I don't know that I'm going to go that route. I think the receiving route is an interesting one. We've messed around with Tetairoa McMillan here a few times. I love that fit for him, though. I think it makes a lot of sense. You need a number 1 receiver in Tennessee because I don't think Calvin Ridley is that guy. But do you trust the quarterback in place? For right now, we're going to assume Levis is there. I think we're going to go with an edge rusher, though. I've talked about this a few times. I really don't like the Titans' pass rush. Don't really think they've got an edge rusher that I trust to consistently pressure the quarterback. So I'm going to take the Tennessee kid, keep him in town. We're going to take James Pierce Jr., one of the most versatile prospects in this class. I think you could play him all over the defensive line. He's improved a lot as a run defender, and he's a really good athlete. He's one of the most explosive players in this draft class. Don't think this is a pick that we've done yet, but I think it makes a lot of sense for a team that really needs help on the defensive line and has to be able to create pressure. They have one of the highest graded defenses in the league this year, and I really don't think they've been able to create pressure consistently. So I think James Pierce gives them the opportunity to do that. At number 7 for the Jets, I think it's going to be Cam Ward or whichever quarterback is on the board. There was a report that came out earlier this week saying that the Jets were going to take a quarterback with or without Rodgers. I do think Rodgers is going to come back next year for them. And if he does, I think there's a great situation for Cam Ward to sit for a year, learn the offense, learn the scheme, and get him up to speed with the NFL game. Because I don't know if he's asked to start right away, I think it could be really rough for him. But I like him in this situation with the Jets to learn behind one of the best to ever do it. We've seen how well it's working for Green Bay. Jordan Love is playing some excellent football. I think Cam Ward could be a very similar type of player. At number 8 for the Cleveland Browns, there's a lot of ways that you could go with them as well. You could address the interior of their defensive line. Wouldn't hate that. You go get another edge rusher. Wouldn't hate that. I still think offensive line is quietly this team's biggest need. I think it's the left tackle. I've taken Will Campbell. I've said so many times he's my number 1 tackle in this class. I don't foresee that changing. I know a lot of people are going to have concerns about the arm length. I get it, but I really do believe that they need to address this offensive line. Go get a lockdown franchise left tackle because Jedrick Wills hasn't been that. Neither has DeJuan Jones. I think Will Campbell, he brings you versatility, and I love his upside. We're going to take him at number 8. At number 9 for the Bears, I'm going to take Kelvin Banks, a player that a lot of people are starting to say might transition to guard at the next level. I think that's a horrible idea, to be completely honest. But either way, I like the versatility of Banks, an incredible athlete. I think he's a really dynamic run blocker. He gets to the second level, lands blocks really effectively. And I think he's exactly the type of piece this Bears team needs. You got to be able to protect Caleb Williams, one of the most valuable young assets in football. And they haven't been able to do that. Was under pressure all day against San Francisco. I think you got to go out. You got to go get a franchise tackle, and I think Kelvin Banks can do that. So now you got Banks, Darnell Wright. Maybe you kick Braxton Jones into guard, or maybe you kick Kelvin Banks into guard. Either way, I like the versatility Banks gives this offensive line. We're going to take him at number 9. At number 10 for the New Orleans Saints, this is going to be the Tetairoa McMillan spot. I've said quite a few times, I think that this offensive weaponry is one of the worst, if not the worst, in football. You've got Chris Olave, who I think is an incredible player when he's on the field. Outside of that, I don't know that they have a single player that I consistently trust. Rashid Shaheed, one of the most hit-or-miss receivers in football. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, the hands have been a concern. And even if Marquez Valdes-Scantling is one of your 3 best receivers, you've got a problem. Tetairoa McMillan gives you number 1 type upside, but he might be a number 2 at the next level if you're behind Olave. Great size, great contested catch ability. He's got speed to make plays happen after the catch. I think McMillan is a very, very good prospect, and we're going to take him here at number 10. At number 11 for the Bengals, they're kind of in a prime spot right now. The 2 edge rushers are off the board, but I do think you've got some good value here. You want to go Mykel Williams, you want to go Nick Scorton. Well, I like both of those guys quite a bit. Also, I like the interior of this defensive line for them. Walter Nolan, Shamar Stewart, Derek Harmon. There's some really, really good pieces here in this range for them. But I kind of want to go a route that we haven't gone for them. I think secondary is still a need. I am going to take Malachi Starks. Now, I know that Will Johnson's still on the board. I think you've gotten decent enough play from your corners, and I like some of the value down the board. I just don't know that you're going to find another player like Malachi Starks that comes available very often. You can move him into the slot. You can play him single eye. You can play him in a whole bunch of defensive alignments. And I think Malachi Starks could be a major contributor for this team. Geno Stone has not been the player that they were hoping he would be. And ever since they lost Jesse Bates, they've kind of had a hole in this cornerback room. I think Malachi Starks, you could argue, is the best defensive back in college football. And I like Will Johnson. The injury is going to have him slip a little bit, but I think Malachi Starks is a really great fit for this team. At number 12, the Dallas Cowboys. I want to go Ashton Jeanty again. That just seems like the pick that makes so much sense for this team, because it does. It does make a lot of sense to go take Ashton Jeanty. But I'm also tempted to go with Walter Nolan here. One of my favorite prospects in this draft. Love his versatility. Think he is an incredible athlete that's got real number 1 defensive tackle upside. They haven't had a good interior rush in quite some time. Receiver also could be a need. Luther Burden starting to climb back up draft boards again, which is great. I think we are going to go with Ashton Jeanty, though. The value's honestly perfect. He is the best running back prospect we've seen since Saquon Barkley. Has another monster performance in the Mountain West Championship game. He's physical. He's big. He can run over dudes. He's going to bring that running identity back to Dallas, and I love this fit for them. I'm taking him at number 12. At number 13 for the Dolphins, I think they are ecstatic that Walter Nolan is still on the board. The value is incredible. I think he is one of the better run defenders in this class who has pass rush upside that hasn't been tapped into yet. That's the best way I could put it. He is one of the best athletes you will find on the interior of the defensive line. He's got a quick first step. He's got speed to get into the backfield. He's really active with his hands. He can crash downhill in the run game. He's a really, really good player. They need help on the interior of their rush. I think there's an easy pick for Miami. At number 14, I think the Colts are going to take Will Johnson. I think the value to take the best cornerback in this draft class, and maybe the best corner in the last 3 draft classes, is too good. I know a lot of Colts fans are going to say, get Tyler Warren in a Colts uniform. Linebacker. This team doesn't have a number 1 corner. You've gotten decent play from Samuel Womack. Juju Brents hasn't been able to stay healthy. I like Jalen Jones as a number 2 or a number 3, not as a number 1. Will Johnson's a legitimate number 1 corner that I think can be a every down player at the next level. That's what this team needs, and I'm taking him at number 14. At number 15 for the Atlanta Falcons, the defense has played better for them over the last few weeks. I still think they need a really good edge rusher. I like Nick Scorton, one of the youngest players in this draft class. Think he could play 3-4 defensive end, 4-3 edge, or 3-4 outside linebacker. He's 280 pounds, really physical, really athletic, quickness to get into the backfield, which you always love to see. I think he is going to have one of the higher ceilings of these edge players coming into the drafts because he is so young and he's been so productive throughout his collegiate career. He just declared for the draft relatively recently. I believe it was just a couple days ago. And I think he's going to be an incredible tester at the combine, and he's going to be a big riser come draft time. I've got him going at number 15. At number 16 for the Arizona Cardinals, I think we're going to go back on the interior. I think getting a legitimate defensive tackle, run stuffer is a need. We've gone edge rusher for them for the last few weeks. I think we're going to go away from that this week, and I want to take Kenneth Grant. He is probably going to play that nose tackle position at the next level. That's where he thrives at the collegiate level right now, and I think it's fine. I think he's a really, really good player. He's got some pass rush upside. He's not this elite pass rusher by any stretch of the imagination, but he's got some power in his game. He can run guys over, and he's really good as a run defender. I'm going to take him at number 16 and just try and help this Arizona run defense that Seattle just ran all over on Sunday. At number 17 for the San Francisco 49ers, man, I think some of the value, if you look at the value here of some of the guys that have fallen, you have the tackles go, and Ariante Ursary is still on the board. I'm going to take him here at 17. I think he can play right tackle. He's super athletic, really good in pass protection, which has been a big development for him. He was really impressive throughout his collegiate career as a run blocker, but this last year, he has shown incredible strides as a pass protector. I think you can move him to the right side and he could be a legitimate number one tackle for you. Super athletic, as we mentioned. I think he's versatile, can play all over the offensive line, and he can be in a pass-heavy or run-heavy scheme. I love this fit. If I'm the Niners, I'm going to take him at 17. At 18 for the Rams, I think they would have loved Ariante Ursary here. Wyatt Milam's a player I'm considering. I like his versatility along the O-line, but I'm going to go with a corner, and I'm going to take Savon Ravel, continuing to make this pick week in and week out because I think he's legitimately the best corner, not named Will Johnson in this draft class. Unfortunately, the injuries have added up for him, but I just love what he brings to this to the table. Whatever you want. You want him to play zone, he can do that. You want to play man, speed, physicality, tackling, it's all there. Savon Ravel is an incredible talent. I'm taking him at 18. At number 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the clock. I like the wide receiver value here. I also really like some of the edge rushers. You've got Mykel Williams. I think we're going to go with Jalen Walker, though. A player that can play linebacker, can play edge. He's fast. He's got speed to get into the backfield. And I think he's a really good contrast to what you have. Chris Braswell was more of this power profiling rusher. Same thing with Yaya Diaby. Jalen Walker is probably a linebacker that can be used on blitzes, which can you imagine more of a Todd Bowles type of player? The way that he loves to utilize blitzes and get free rushers. Like we saw what he was able to do with Devin White. Jalen Walker is, I think, that level, but maybe a little bit better with his hands and has some better coverage instincts. I think he's a really impressive player. Not my number one linebacker because I think he's kind of a bit of a tweener between a linebacker and an edge rusher. But I love the value. I'm going to take him at 19. At 20 for the Commanders, they've not been in this spot for me very often with the edge rushers still on the board. And I'm kind of thinking I want to go that route. I'm going to take Mykel Williams to Washington. Now, this is not a pick I've made at all this entire draft cycle. I don't know if we've gone edge for them once this year. But I think this is a pick that makes a lot of sense. You've gotten good play from Dante Fowler. You can't really be banking on Dante Fowler to be your number one edge rusher. I know you paid Doris Armstrong. I know you paid some of those guys, but Mykel Williams, I think, is worth a shot here. Really athletic. He's got some of the longest arms you're going to see for an edge rusher. 265 pounds, freakishly long arms, quick first step, really good bend, really good run defender. I think he gives you starting upside right away that can develop into one of the better edge rushers in football. Bit of a project, bit of a raw prospect, but I think the value here really strong for him. I'm going to take Mykel Williams at number 20. And number 21, another pick that's so easy for me to make. It's going to be Tyler Warren to the LA Chargers. He can block. He is that more of that physical type of Chargers tight end that I feel like Jim Harbaugh is just going to value. He does the dirty work in the run game. He's so versatile. They use him on run plays, pass plays. I mean, he does everything that you want and then some. Incredible player, really good dynamic weapon that I think Justin Herbert would just love to have. We're taking him at 21. At 22, I think this is going to be the Luther Burden spot. As much as I really like Colston Loveland, and he might get taken here in a little bit, I think Luther Burden is kind of being undervalued in this draft class. He does so much that you love to see from the receiver position. He's a bigger, undersized receiver, if that makes sense. He's built differently than some of these undersized guys. I think he's got incredible speed. He's elusive after the catch. That's kind of what I think this Broncos team needs. Troy Franklin, been a bit of a hit or miss player. Marvin Mims, same sort of deal. But I think Luther Burden can be a legit number one receiver for you. I think his play style complements Cortland Sutton's so well. And I'm a big fan of this kid. I think he's going to go in the first round. I've got him going at 22. At 23, we're going to take Wyatt Milam out of West Virginia. And it took Josh Simmons for me. So this right here is going to be Wyatt Milam. But Wyatt Milam, really good player. I think he's a good run blocker. Maybe not the most athletic player in the world, but he's really fundamentally sound. I know some people are going to talk about his transition to guard as well. It's fine. I think that makes sense. I wouldn't hate that for him. I think he could definitely play guard at the next level. I think he's got the play style to stay at tackle, though, because I think he is really good at his hands. He's really good at recovering with edge rushers. If he loses step, I feel like he can get back into the play, which I don't really see from a lot of these guys. Josh Simmons is a guy that we might take later on. The injury does scare me a little bit, but Wyatt Milam is going to be the pick here. We'll keep Josh Simmons in as a placeholder. At 24, this is going to be an edge rusher for me. I've talked about this a few times. I'm going to take Mike Green out of Marshall. I think Baltimore needs to look into addressing this pass rush because you lost Jadeveon Clowney, and it feels like you kind of lost a big part of your identity defensively. They can't really rush the passer like they've been able to in years prior. That's a bit of a concern for me. I think you got to be able to get to the quarterback, have to be able to create pressure. And Mike Green has been maybe the best defensive player in college football this year. Marshall wins the Sun Belt, and he was a big part of why they were able to do that. He's so quick, so good with his hands, and one of the better edge players I've seen. Incredible talent, and I think deserves to be a first-round pick in this draft class. So we'll take him at 24. At 25 for the Texans, this is usually a spot that I like to go with Malachi Starks. He's off the board here. So where do we want to go? Jonas Savaiinaia, player that I think a lot of people are a big fan of. I'm not as big of a fan as others are. Jared Wilson I love, but I don't know if he's going to go in the first round. We'll take Tyler Booker here. I think he's the type of player that Houston needs. He's taken some snaps at tackle this year, but he is primarily a guard, and that's where they need help. The interior of their offensive line has been a complete disaster really all season long. C.J. Stroud has dealt with pressure all over the place, and you've got to get help on the front of this offensive line. You got to be able to protect C.J. Stroud. And Tyler Booker, very nasty, physical type of blocker that I think is a home run here if you are Houston. He can run block. He's got some nastiness to pass block as well. We're going to take him at 25 and try and protect C.J. Stroud for the foreseeable future. At 26, this is going to be a cornerback. I'm going to take Jahdae Barron, another game where he was incredible. Unfortunately, Texas came up just short, but he feels like the type of player Green Bay would love. You can move him all over this defense. Can play in the slot, can play in the boundary, can play safety. He's done everything throughout his tenure at Texas, and I think it makes a lot of sense. He's so versatile. I think he's athletic. I think he moves really well for the position as well. I just have nothing but positive things to say about Jahdae Barron, and I'm going to take him at 26 to Green Bay. At 27 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, man, what a season they've had. Doesn't really feel like there's many holes on this roster, but still think receiver could be a need for this team. I know a lot of people love Emeka Egbuka. I'm not the biggest Emeka Egbuka guy in the world. I like Isaiah Bond better, but Emeka Egbuka feels like a Steeler. We're going to go with that. He just feels like a Steeler. He works the middle of the field well, really good at finding the soft spots in zone, making plays happen after the catch. That's kind of his bread and butter and where he has thrived at Ohio State. I don't really see anything changing for him with the Steelers. We're going to take him at 27. At 28 for the Vikings, really good spot for them to be in. I want to go with the interior of the defensive line. Shamar Stewart is going to be the pick here. He's 290. He's a guy that I think can play edge for you, though. And in a Brian Flores defense that uses Andrew Van Ginkel in all the ways they use him, and I really like the value here of Shamar Stewart. I think he's a freak athlete that can play all over your defensive line and be a legitimate game changer for this team. I'm going to take a chance on him here at 28. I know a lot of people have him going higher than this, but this is about where I have him on my board. The back end of the first, early second. So we'll take him at 28. At 29, I'm going to continue to go D-tackle. Derek Harmon. I love his versatility. He can play in that 3-tech position and rush the passer from the interior, which he's done a pretty good job of this year, which is something I don't think a lot of people was expecting, but he's done a pretty great job at rushing the passer. He was brought in to be primarily a run defender because that's what he had done so well at Michigan State. Haven't really seen that as much for Oregon, but he's been so good as a pass rusher. I think it's worth a gamble here at number 29, back into the first round. That's around the value I have Derek Harmon going. At number 30 for the Philadelphia Eagles, good spot to be in. I'm going to go with an edge rusher for them. And it's going to be Princely Uman-Mielen out of Ole Miss, a guy I think I took to them last week, a player that I think is quietly becoming one of the more underappreciated players in this draft class. I really like him. I think he's got a ton of upside. The bend is really good. I think he's good with his hands, can defend the run. I love him. He's one of my favorite prospects in this draft. Taking him at 30. At 31, this is where I think you could see Josh Simmons go. So we're going to take Wyatt Milam. It's going to be swapped. But Josh Simmons was having an incredible season for Ohio State before he goes down. He declares for the draft. He's a player that is going to get some legitimate buzz as a first-round pick. The pass protection is really good. The injury is a bit of a concern, but it happened early in the season. He should be good to go by training camp. You feel really confident in what Wyatt Milam could turn into as a prospect, and I love this for them. I'm going to take him at 31. And then to finish it off at 32, I am going to take I'm going to go again with an edge rusher here. We're going to go with one of my favorite prospects, Donovan Eziraku. Haven't taken him in a few weeks, but had a really good season for Boston College. Seemed like week in and week out, he was able to make big-time plays for the Eagles, and I think he's going to be a first-round, early second-round type of prospect, and I think he makes a lot of sense to Detroit because who knows how long Zadarius Smith can keep it going. They've had a lot of injuries. I think you need more depth, and I think that Donovan Eziraku makes so much sense to them. That's going to do it for me in this video, guys. Let me know what you think. Do you guys agree? Do you disagree? Which picks would you change up? Leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys next one. Adios.